So a little while ago, we made a video ranking the seasons of Family Guy if you only looked at each season's best episode. But could those highly rated seasons stand up if we only looked at the worst? That's what we're going to find out, so join us as we rank the seasons by their lowest rated episodes. Starting with the worst of the worst, Season 22's A Stash from the Past, which follows Peter in Wild West, tracking down Tom Selleck so Peter can get the money he lost from reverse mortgaging himself back.
Just go to www. I'm kidding. Here's a phone number as big as we can put it.
Dang, a 1-800 number. I thought all of those went extinct in the before times. So Peter loses a ton of money after a Tom Selleck commercial convinces him to reverse mortgage his house. No, I didn't just start talking in tongues. I get that a lot of you probably have no idea what that is or who that guy is. Can't say I blame you. But Wild West, a former friend of Selleck's, agrees to help Peter track him down.
The only thing that can stop a bad guy with a mustache is a good guy with a mustache.
So what I'm hearing is we should have tighter regulations on mustaches. Their journey to reach Tom takes them to New York where they're arrested, but no prison can hold a true cowboy. That's why they were hanging people so much back in the day. Way more efficient. But they eventually managed to corner Tom on one of his shows.
Regular guys like me trust you.
I didn't make you do anything.
Yeah, but owning up to your mistakes is not something you do when you get older, and Peter isn't going to start now. Luckily, Wild West convinces him to make things right through the power of also having a mustache. It's nice to see those dangerous weapons used for good.
I'm gonna write you a check for a little bit of the lot of money I've made selling legitimate reverse mortgages.
Yeah, this is the bottom of the barrel here. It's one of the most bone-dry nothing burgers of an episode, and it kind of reflects on Season 22 as a whole, which we think just might be the worst season of Family Guy. But up next is the lowest rated episode in the entire series, which comes from Season 17's You Can't Handle the Booth, a meta episode where the Griffins commentate over an episode while their whole lives unravel.
A lot of people don't notice, but that house is actually in Burbank. People keep stealing their mailbox.
That's what you get for not shooting on a soundstage. But now you can sell it later for millions of dollars like the Breaking Bad house. Anyway, this recording session quickly turns hostile as Lois discovers that Peter makes more money than her, and also still pays alimony to his ex-wife.
How come you never told me you were married before?
I don't know, it just never came up.
I thought these two met in high school. Or is that just the characters of Peter and Lois, not the real ones? There might not be a show with more confusing lore out there. This sparks a lot of resentment in Lois, who claps back with a secret of her own. One that I'd wager is much worse.
Chris might not even be your son.
What?
I once slept with Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Look, wouldn't we all want to take that opportunity if we were presented with it? Why am I the only one with my hand raised? So this nearly shatters Peter and Lois's relationship, but everyone is convinced to calm down and carry on thanks to the arrival of their voice actors to smooth things over.
I enjoy your brilliant work on Robot Chicken.
Wait, Seth Green, are you feeding yourself compliments now?
Basically, none of them are real and nothing they do matters. That's reassuring. Personally, we think this episode gets a little too much hate. Yes, it's hard to understand and it's super jumbled, but the silly concept does work in places. Does it work enough to make a good episode? Well, you can see its position on this list. And at number 22 is the lowest rated episode of Season 23, Drunk with Power. This episode sees Peter switching places with Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, seating Peter in one of the highest offices of power.
Justice Kavanaugh? It's him.
Careful, you might start bleeding if you get too close to this sharp political satire. So after a rambunctious night of binge drinking, Peter and Kavanaugh essentially switch lives. Brett gets to drink all he wants without responsibilities, and Peter gets to decide if gay marriage should be overturned. Sometimes these alcoholics need to remain anonymous.
All people are equal under the law, which is why we must not only ban gay marriage, we have to ban straight marriage.
An idea so incredibly backwards that it actually comes off as progressive. Unfortunately, this law never sees the light of day as Brett returns to take his seat after having an epiphany about his role in the country. Nah, I think he just misses the paychecks.
A toast to Peter Griffin, who brought some common sense to this court.
We already know most people hate the political episodes, and this might just be the worst one of the bunch. Tired and irrelevant concept, weak as heck satire, and just a lack of good comedy all around. Easily one of the worst episodes in the lineup, and one that condemns Season 23 to a lot of bad memories. And up next is the lowest rated episode of Season 21, Old West, an episode revolving around Peter trying to help Mayor Wild West reconnect with his dad, Old West.
What kind of a man shoots another man when he's not looking? You ambushed me.
A real man is always ready for an ambush.
Yep, you should always be paranoid and ready to shoot someone at any given moment. Don't see any negative that can come from that. But despite shooting his son in the arm, Old West actually wants to make things right, but doesn't really know how to do it. Neither does Peter, but that's not going to stop him from throwing out some dumb ideas.
The free Marriott polo shirt tells everyone that you're handsy when you're drunk. The jean shorts say you're impotent.
Jeans are bad enough. Why would you want a version of them that puts even more of a squeeze on your lower area? I don't care how much cake you're packing back there, it's just not worth it. But none of this really helps those two's estranged relationship. Kinda think the son just has to shoot the dad. You foreigners wouldn't get it. It's an American thing.
Happy Father's Day. I never want to see you again.
You never will.
Jeez, I want what they have. My dad won't even let me point a gun at him. If Wild West is front and center, chances are you might have a forgettable episode. He's just not a strong enough character to be the focal point, but this episode also has some of the weakest writing and storytelling of the later seasons. Suddenly, getting shot by your dad doesn't sound like the most painful thing to experience. But it may not come as much of a surprise to find that the lowest rated episode of Season 12 is Life of Brian, an episode that saw the titular family dog dramatically killed off and quickly replaced with another.
Brian, look out!
I've probably seen this exact clip more times than I've seen my own family. So Brian legitimately dies, and it seems like the show is actually going to keep him dead for the foreseeable future. But they gotta fill the void with a talking, wisecracking dog, so Peter adopts Vinny into their home.
What's your name?
Chris?
How about I call you Hat Boy?
Hell yeah!
That was actually Meg's nickname, but Vinny's new. He'll learn with time. Vinny actually manages to win everyone in the family over, all except for Stewie, who's still in the grieving process of losing Brian.
He was my best friend. You're not supposed to lose your best friend at my age.
Don't let Rupert hear you talking like this, or else you just might be losing two friends very quickly. But Stewie and Vinny seem to reach a common ground and make a connection, forming a strong bond destined to last 2 episodes.
Maybe we were meant to be together.
You know what, Vinny? I'm starting to think that may be true.
This episode has been talked about to death, and every time we watch it, we totally understand the hate. The decision to kill Brian isn't entirely an unwelcome one, but the way the show went about it just put a red mark on the entirety of Season 12 as a whole, which could factor into why this season isn't one of the more highly regarded ones. And at number 19 is the lowest rated episode of Season 19, Boys and Squirrels. Pawtucket Pat is also tied with this score, but we think Boys and Squirrels makes a stronger case for why it deserves this title. The episode sees Chris and Stewie going all parental in order to nurse a baby squirrel back to health.
I dare say we would make outstanding parents to this squirrel.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I've never seen a pair of brothers more in need of a divorce in my life. But the two bros decide to do what they can in order to make this squirrel healthy again, and to their credit, they actually succeed. Mostly. They do make the mistake of letting their living chew toy walk around the house.
Yes, this will really tell people.
Sorry to anyone who was having a good time today, but you did read the title of this video, right? So the death of the squirrel really hurts Chris and Stewie's relationship, eventually needing therapy to try and patch things back together. Again, I know you're brothers, but you might just want to separate at this point. Save your hypothetical future squirrel kids the headache.
You said you loved pizza, especially when I make the ones with the crust made of wheat.
He also does that.
But the two brothers manage to reconcile and love each other once again in a strictly platonic way. Family Guy loves their family drama episodes, but this one just isn't all that funny. Plus, seeing the baby squirrel get violently mauled to death kinda just overshadows any attempt at this episode being seen as a positive one. Not even Tall Peter can save this episode, and the world loves Tall Peter. And next up is the lowest rated episode of Season 10, the controversial episode Screams of Silence, the story of Brenda Q. This episode sees Quagmire's sister Brenda continuously beaten by her boyfriend, which makes Quagmire and the guys decide to do something about it.
Jeff, please, you're being—
What? What am I being? Crazy? Unemployed? Why don't you call the cops like you did on Christmas?
Well, that sounded like a mistake. You don't call the cops until something bad has already happened. Believe it or not, it's not a crime to threaten to beat someone senseless. Maybe. Anyway, when Brenda and Jeff stay with Quagmire, it becomes strikingly apparent just how much Brenda's abused. No amount of big sunglasses can hide that. You do look fierce, but there's kind of a time and place for that.
Oh my god.
No, it's really not that bad. It only hurts when I see.
The making the best of a bad situation shtick is really only acceptable in certain situations. Beethoven became an incredible composer despite being deaf. But I guess if he was made deaf through multiple punches to the head, it probably wouldn't be as admirable. But Quagmire has had enough of this and ropes the guys into tricking Jeff into going on a hunting trip so they can kill him in the woods.
You're gonna kill me, is that it?
Aw, crap, he must have read the above paragraph. Jeff nearly kills Quagmire himself, but his iron-forged esophagus allows him to survive and eventually kill Jeff with Peter's car. Good for him, but he better cover some of the repair costs or else he's getting taken into the woods next time.
I kind of want to kill somebody else now. Oh, what?
So this episode decided to cover a very dark subject matter, and it really polarized audiences. While some liked that the show pushed boundaries, others felt like there wasn't much to make funny about this subject matter. We agree to an extent, as while it's cathartic to see Jeff get his due, it doesn't stop this from being a fairly uncomfortable watch from a show that's supposed to make you laugh. And at number 17 is the lowest rated episode of Season 18, Yacht Rocky. It actually shares the same rating as Season 18's Brida, but we think this one just isn't quite as up to par as that one. In this episode, the family goes on a yacht rock cruise only to hit some rough waters.
This one's called Summer Breeze, and it makes me feel fine.
It's like having trazodone on Spotify. So the guys end up getting real into the slow and steady vibes of the yacht rock music genre and decide to go on a cruise inspired by it. Which means they get to hang out with all those yacht rock legends that your dad probably knows. But your dad's not watching this, so why the show thought these would be good references to make is anyone's guess.
Belle Biv's DeVoe.
Dude, you can't biv someone. Biv's a guy.
Everybody on this cruise is boring.
Careful, Meg. You're saying the quiet part out loud. Thankfully, something actually interesting comes around. A giant tidal wave that kills a bunch of people and causes the boat to flip. Hey, I said interesting, not happy.
There's a spot in the propeller room where the hull's only an inch thick. Maybe we can try to cut our way.
Oh, there goes the only guy who could maybe get them out of this. Kenny Loggins knows a thing or two about being in the danger zone. But now a shark is probably tearing apart his body, making his hand and foot loose. Okay, I'll stop. So the gang makes it up to the propeller room but can't find a way to get out, which means there's only one way to survive. Just deciding not to die.
Man, that was crazy.
Writing endings is hard, huh? So there's some decent bits in here with Meg and her brief boyfriend and Chris and Stewie's marital issues, but the episode doesn't get all that interesting until more than halfway through. The youngins who make up the show's audience are probably not going to care about all these yacht rock references. The only yacht they like is the little one, and the only rock they like is named Dwayne. And following that is the lowest rated episode of Season 20, Rock Hard. This episode parodies the stories of many famous musical acts, from Jim Morrison to Muddy Waters to Elton John.
Yeah, all those biopics are the same story. Unsupportive parents, hit song, band turmoil.
Having giant horse teeth and dying of AIDS.
They're tales as old as time, and yet people keep letting those movies make a ton of money. You at least gotta make the subject a CGI monkey if you're gonna want me to see it. And like the show's opinions on the biopics, this episode is also pretty par for the course when it comes to Family Guy's parody episodes. They mostly just retell moments from the artists' lives with their own characters. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and then sometimes it doesn't again, and then sometimes it doesn't even more times.
Oh no, the screen's turning sepia. This is the end of my story.
Not really a whole lot to say about this one. It's not mind-numbingly bad, but it's pretty much exactly what you'd expect. If you like these stars or the movies based around them, maybe there's something here to enjoy, but this just isn't all that memorable in the slightest. But a slightly more memorable episode is Season 9's Foreign Affairs. It's actually tied with the other Season 9 episode, Excellence in Broadcasting, and while most of the dislike for that episode seems to come from its political themes, we think Foreign Affairs is an overall weaker episode.
Lois, I came here to have an affair.
An affair? With who?
Anyone?
See, it's that kind of adventurous spirit that makes someone a good travel partner. Just respect the sock on the hotel room doorknob. So during a girl's trip to Paris, Bonnie decides she's going to cheat on Joe, and Lois does her best to try and stop her. Hey, a girl wants what a girl wants.
My intention is to void myself on you.
Oh, I'd almost forgotten what it's like to be romanced.
And I'm perfectly okay with not trying to understand why she wants what she wants. That's a can of worms best left in that guy's colon. And despite Lois's pleading, Bonnie still seems pretty set on going through with this affair.
Lois, this is Francois.
Oh, you're serious.
I guess wheelchairs aren't a deal breaker for Bonnie. But this is like going to a foreign country and getting McDonald's. Sure, it's a little different, but why not live on the wild side a bit? But before Bonnie can actually go all the way with spitting in the face of her marriage, Lois employs one last tool to convince Bonnie to stop.
Joe, what are you doing here?
I came as soon as Lois told me, Bonnie. Please don't do it.
I know tensions are high, but maybe let Joe get in on the action? Just throwing out some options to make this a little better, but that might not be possible. So to prove his eternal love to Bonnie, Joe decides to use all of his strength to stand on his own, which wins his wife back.
Let's go home, Joe.
Despite some okay comedy, this episode is mostly remembered as one of the tentpoles of Bonnie's character assassination and Joe's miserable existence. The whole concept isn't all that enjoyable, as it falls into Family Guy's habit of trying to be serious and it not really landing. And similar things can be said for the lowest rated episode of Season 16, Send in Stewie Please. This no cutaway bottle episode sees Stewie being examined by a child psychologist who helps him get deeper into his issues.
You seem like a very lonely little boy.
Oh my god, I am!
Leave it to Gandalf to have impeccable insight into someone's character. Unless, of course, you're an evil-looking wizard whose name is very close to the name of the villain. Bit of a blind spot there. So the child psychologist helps Stewie open up and has him admit why he's so standoffish to kids his age. He of course has a superiority complex, but is also super self-conscious, causing him to put up protective barriers. A fake accent is certainly an interesting one. Most people just get into anime or fursuits or something.
For once, to talk with my real voice without the burden of trying to sound like someone I'm not.
I kinda liked the fake Stewie better. You can't just spring a change on me like that and expect me to immediately accept it. But Stewie has similar feelings because by stripping away what makes him unique, he ends up just like everybody else. He doesn't want to be a sheep, unless it's on Jolly Farm. That's the only acceptable place to be a sheep.
I want to remain what I've always been. Superior, brilliant, special. Oh God, what was I thinking?
And on that note, the universe seems to not need that psychiatrist anymore as he starts having a heart attack. Sorry pal, but the show can't afford Ian McKellen for another episode, so Stewie's just gonna have to let you die. It's one of the coldest things Stewie has ever done, but the good doctor gets the last laugh.
You're not in any way.
I guess this served as a nice little introspection for Stewie, but this is one of those self-serious episodes that doesn't completely work. It's good for long monologues and character dissections, but not really much entertainment or laughs. And at number 13 is the lowest rated episode of the most recent season, Season 24, which is Friend's Best Man. This episode sees Stewie choosing Chris over Brian to be his best man, which Brian does not take well.
Well, this is awkward. Stewie asked me to be the best man.
What? He did?
Well, somebody has to be the ring bearer, and Chris would not look nearly as cute with the pillow holding the ring tied to his waist. So after Rupert proposes to Stewie, Chris is tasked with organizing everything the groom needs. Brian, who's trying not to seem hurt after being left out, does what he can to help despite being passed over.
Oh, you're not coming in. Your job is to hold all our wallets and not give them to us, no matter how much we beg you.
Of course, this whole thing was just a ploy to make Brian want to be Stewie's best man. Can you blame a dog for not jumping at the chance to sanction a child marriage? Or a dog and baby marriage? There's no open bar on earth that could make me go to that wedding.
Since when can a dog and a baby not get a marriage license?
Overall, not too bad of an episode, although the Brian and Stewie relationship episodes have kind of been done to death, and there might not be anywhere else to take them at this point. Just keep their relationship out of the bedroom and I'll be all good. And there's a three-way tie in Season 11 for lowest rated episode with Turban Cowboys, Save the Clam, and No Country Club for Old Men. There's good and bad to be said about all these episodes, but we're gonna go with No Country Club for Old Men, which sees Carter getting kicked out of his country club with Peter taking his place.
I still can't believe Chris is dating a Barrington. They own this whole club.
Well, the only hope for the family was for someone to marry into money. It's hard to believe that Chris was the best option. So the Griffins get invited to the same country club that Carter attends, but when Peter starts to receive special treatment from the owner, Carter gets so jealous that his actions get him kicked out.
That is it! You are officially kicked out of this club!
What?
Griffin, we just had an opening.
Glad to see that even the uber wealthy can be complete losers like the rest of us. All that green can't hide the fact you're so yellow. So getting kicked out pretty much ruins Carter's life, and since Peter's such a nice guy, he tries to barter with the club owner to take him back.
Look, Mr. Barrington, he's my father-in-law. So if he goes, I go.
Fine, I don't care.
I mean, yeah, did he expect that to go differently? You think the king feels disappointed in his 50th jester leaving? He'll always be able to find another. So Peter and Carter decide to earn their way back in by posing as royalty, but Peter blows their cover and infuriates Carter.
I knew I couldn't depend on you! You're not worthy to lick my designer shoes, you fat lowlife slob!
Apparently assaulting the poor is all you need to do to get back into these clubs. A house fire burning this place down would solve a good chunk of the town's problems, just saying. This one's just kind of forgettable, as there are way better Peter and Carter episodes out there that deliver on more laughs and better interactions between the two. But just missing out on the top 10 is the lowest rated episode of Season 15, Gronkowski's. In this episode, star football player Rob Gronkowski moves into Quahog, but quickly goes from legend to nuisance with Peter.
Whoa! 4 standing dogs?
No, we're people, sir.
Not to the rich and famous, you're not. You're lucky he identified you as dogs rather than ants he needed to hose off his porch. So when Gronk moves into the neighborhood, the guys try to get on his good side, but quickly learn that the guy is more frat bro than they're capable of dealing with.
Whoa, that is top secret. But lean in and I'll tell you.
I think Peter's mostly annoyed that he didn't come up with that bit first. He can still use it on Meg later though. So combined with his childish attitude and his all-night parties, Rob proves to be a pretty annoying neighbor, and the only way to get him out of the neighborhood is with the only language he understands: violence.
Oh, cool, we're fighting? You guys mind if I eat while I beat you up?
But there's actually only one thing that can truly defeat Gronk: the B-plot. Yeah, while this is going on, Brian and Stewie are pumping a bunch of bees full of steroids to create their booming honey business, but now those insects are roided up and mad. And just like a roided up person, they're about to throw away their future because they have a primal desire to beat someone up.
Holy crap! There's a ton of them! Dad, start up the party bus! We're moving! Bees? Yeah, bees!
This one's not offensively bad, but it's still pretty forgettable. It's cool Rob Gronkowski voiced himself, even if he sounds a little awkward in the recording booth. The side plot with Brian and Stewie's honey business helps a little bit, especially when it connects to the end, but overall, this just isn't one of the strongest offerings. And kicking off the top 10 is Season 8's Spies Reminiscent of Us. It shares the same rating as the Season 8 episode Extra Large Medium, a fairly controversial episode. But while it may have rubbed people the wrong way, we think the episode about Stewie and Brian joining actors Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd on an espionage mission sits just a little bit lower.
We're actually working for the federal government, and we need your help. Do you want to be spies like us?
Every country in the world wishes they could weaponize a baby and a dog in the realm of espionage, but that's just the determination of America. We were the first ones to set foot on the moon and the first to turn a toddler and an animal into secret agents. So Chevy and Aykroyd are in Quahog to track down dormant KGB sleeper agents, and it just so happens that Mayor West is one of them.
It's him!
Leave it to the Soviet Union to corrupt one of the most beloved national treasures in America. That being said, West probably willingly signed up to do this. He might have thought KGB stood for King Golf Ball and was honored to meet him. West escapes, but the foursome follow him into Russia, where he launches a missile towards the US.
You've just launched a nuclear missile against the United States.
Well, this day has taken a bad turn.
Might be underselling it just a tad there. Luckily, they managed to take control of the missile remotely and disarm it, saving the United States from a nuclear fallout. All in a day's work for the 80s favorite C-list comedians. Oh yeah, and Peter and the guys form an improv group in this episode.
Here's John Wayne Bobbitt at the first Thanksgiving. Where's my pilgrims?
Despite 2 celebrity guests, this isn't the most memorable of episodes out there. There was probably more potential with the stars and the setting, but what we got here didn't leave the biggest impression. The Peter side plot was mostly nothing, but I can't lie, I never tire of hearing that John Wayne impression. Did he actually sound like that? I hope not, because that just makes it even funnier. And next up is the lowest rated episode of Season 13, Stewie is enceinte. This infamous episode sees Stewie impregnating himself with Brian's DNA, leading to a parental nightmare.
You're pregnant with our baby? How could this even happen?
That's why you gotta be wearing protection, Brian. Even with friends. Even with friends you haven't done anything with. You kinda just have to stay wrapped 24/7, just in case. So Stewie did this in order to bring him and Brian closer together, and it definitely worked to a certain extent. Brian wants to stay extra close so he can be near when Stewie comes across a tall flight of stairs.
But only mint chip. Any other ice cream makes me want to puke. Isn't that weird?
Yes, Stewie, that's the one weird thing in all this.
But eventually the happy day arrives and Stewie gives birth to a whole litter of abominations. I think like 1 or 2 of them are cute enough to keep. The rest can go in a box on the side of the highway just as nature intended. But the burden of parenthood quickly starts to weigh the 2 of them down.
Oh, I caught 2 of them trying to eat each other, so that's something we need to watch out for.
Survival of the fittest, I say. It's not like regular babies don't do the same. You ever look at a pair of twins and just immediately know which one was hogging all the nutrients in the womb? Eventually, they just put the kids who don't die gruesome deaths up for adoption, but the whole experience has recontextualized their relationship to them, and confused every other person in town.
Hey, I went by your house the other day. Is your baby pregnant?
I don't know. Lois is in charge of the kids.
We do think this episode gets a bit of a bad rap because of how gross it is, but there's still some funny stuff buried in there. It's certainly not a comfort episode, but it's certainly not the outright worst the series has to offer. And at number 8 is the lowest rated episode in Season 7, The Juice is Loose. This episode revolves around Peter becoming friends with football star and alleged murderer O.J. Simpson, leading to a handful of wacky hijinks.
You poor fella. Gosh, there's no way you could have killed anybody. Not with those sad eyes.
I think more people were concerned about how his hands were involved, not his eyes. But Peter sees the disgraced football player as a misunderstood soul and decides to bring him around the family so they can see the truth as well.
Let me get something to clean that up.
Ah! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Brian, what's the matter?
I'd be pretty upset to find my food all spilled out on the floor like that too. This dog has been allowed to eat at the dinner table one too many times to be okay with it. So while the family is still skittish around OJ, Peter feels that he's ready to be reintroduced to the world, but the world isn't ready to welcome him back with open arms. That's too similar to a football tackle anyway, and you know there's no beating him with that.
We don't want you in our town, Simpson. We don't love you like we did in 1993. Go!
It ain't easy living with the last name Simpson. You either get ostracized, criticized for no longer being funny, or have your career ruined trying to lip sync on SNL. But Peter convinces the townsfolk that everyone's due a second chance. For the most part, I probably would just want to give him a pat down beforehand. Man, he was probably holding that in forever. Bet it felt so good to finally let that out, like a long fart. So the reason why one might like this episode is also the reason why someone might hate it. The subject matter is definitely prickly, even for the time. It could be argued that this would have worked better as a bit or two rather than a whole episode, as the final reveal is only a little funny. Plus, there's a Conway Twitty cutaway. Suddenly, the lower rating isn't all that surprising. But next we have the lowest rated episode of Season 6, The Former Life of Brian. In this episode, Brian reconnects with a son he never knew he had, finally finding purpose in his life for the first time.
Brian, this is Dylan. He's your son.
Oh, no way!
Maybe this episode is rated as low as it is because no one can forgive that very obvious age gap between Brian and his son. And while Brian initially doesn't want anything to do with his son, Dylan ends up getting dropped into his lap, making him everybody's problem.
You're just a fat old
Well, not to get technical, sir, but you are the
Got him. It's a brave move to dunk on a kid very obviously looking for a reason to kill. But Brian's had enough of him and tries to kick him out, but after a quick father-son smoking session, the two manage to reconcile.
It wasn't my fault!
You weren't there for me!
Damn it, don't you think I wanted to be?
And this gives Brian the opportunity to help Dylan transform into an upstanding young man. Glad to see him finally put some good in the world, even though it's more or less counteracted by just how annoying of a parent he becomes. This is beyond being a helicopter parent. He's a full-on battleship parent.
Look, will you take it easy?
Anne, I do not want to have this conversation in front of my son.
But all good things must come to an end, as well as the annoying things, and Dylan eventually decides to return home to help rehabilitate his mom. At least Brian managed to do a nice thing. Now, never do it again. It's super annoying.
I'm gonna miss that boy.
A pretty defining episode for Brian, but Season 6 is considered one of the best ever, so it was definitely up against some steep competition. Not a bad episode by any means, though it did kinda seem to start the downfall of Brian's character in the eyes of many. And just missing out on the top 5 is the lowest rated episode of Season 14, Peter's Sister. This episode sees Peter reconnect with his abusive sister, but with the help of Meg, he finds the courage to finally stand up to her.
I didn't know Peter even had a sister.
What are you, ashamed of me, chin nuts?
Oh my god, his chin kinda does look like nuts.
Karen's only been here 2 minutes and she's already provided enough ammunition to make sure Peter never wins an argument with his friends again. So Karen's big, strong, and super mean to Peter, going out of her way to beat and embarrass him in front of everybody.
And whenever he stutters, he usually pees his pants.
No, I don't.
He pees himself for a multitude of reasons, yet somehow this might be the most embarrassing one. Meg immediately clocks how Peter's childhood of being bullied directly affected how he treats his own kids and urges him to stand up for himself. He needs his own seahorse seashell party, just, one with an actually satisfying ending.
I am gonna become a lady wrestler and defeat Heavy Flo in the ring.
Wait, what? No! What?
So Peter meets his sister at her place of work and tries to beat her in a wrestling match. Peter nearly gets choked to death, but luckily Meg makes the save and beats her. Very confusing booking that makes no sense in the long run. Welcome back, WCW. But at least it leads to Peter and Meg finding common ground.
I'm really sorry I treated you so badly over the years. I guess I was taking out all the pain I felt on you.
This episode isn't half bad, maybe just a tad forgettable. But there are some funny moments, Kate McKinnon does a great guest voice, and it always gives me a chance to briefly talk about my pro wrestling hyperfixation, so this one's pretty good in my book. And breaking us into the top 5 is Season 5 with the lowest rated episode, Boys Do Cry. Truthfully, this episode is also tied with the episode No Meals on Wheels and Bill and Peter's Bogus Journey, but we found this one doesn't get talked about nearly as much, and it centers around the Griffins fleeing to Texas after Stewie's believed to be possessed by the devil.
That baby just threw up the host!
That's a sign of the devil!
Oh my god, is he possessed? He's possessed!
If someone throwing up after chugging wine is a sign of possession, then you may just have to deploy a National Guard-style army of priests to every college bar in America. So the Griffins flee Quahog as the town demands an exorcism be performed on Stewie. Finally, an actual reasonable time for Stewie to be cross-dressing. Or shall we say, going incognito? Nah, it's cross-dressing.
How you holding up, Stewie?
I feel right, Brian. I feel right.
But the Griffins don't exactly feel right about living in the Bible Belt, but they do their best to fit in. You just know Peter's been wanting to wear a cowboy hat all his life, and this is one of the few places in the country he can do it without getting jumped in the street. Heck, even Brian manages to see the bright side of it all.
Here you go.
Thanks. What's this?
That's your gun. Buy some liquor, get a free gun.
How economical. I guess Texas realized their mortality rate was looking a bit lower every year. If they're gonna be pumping out babies, they gotta start making some room. Eventually, the hunt for Stewie is called off, but the family doesn't really know if they want to move back home, as Texas seems to be quite the enjoyable place. Well, if it's not religious psychosis in one place, it's the hatred of alternative lifestyles in another.
Hey, that's not a girl! It's Enrico Palazzo! No, it's not! It's one of them queero
Yeah, I guess it's not too surprising why this one doesn't get talked about a ton. Of course, there are the caricatures of the devoutly Christian, but it's also an episode of isolated bits rather than an interesting story. Very entertaining, iconic bits, don't get us wrong, but certainly one of the weaker offerings of the early seasons. And at number 4 is the lowest rated episode in season 1, The Sun Also Draws, which expands the characterization of the family by showing Chris's interest in drawing, Lois's gambling problem, and just how many race jokes can be made before it becomes tacky.
Pack your bags, you guys. The Griffins are hitting the Big Apple.
That's probably the only time Peter's ever shown an interest in a fruit. So when Chris gets kicked out of Boy Scouts, Peter decides to drive the family to New York, where the Scouts' headquarters is. But when nature calls, Peter makes him stop at a Native American casino so he can take part in a different type of craps.
Wow, an Indian casino!
Yeah, I gotta find me the stink lodge.
But you can't just go to a casino and only use the bathroom. That's like going to the beach and not getting horribly sunburnt. What were you even doing here in the first place? Lois gets it though, as she's convinced to partake in a little gambling while Peter lets one loose. Time flies when you're having fun. So too does your wallet, your cash, and the title to your car.
But here's the really silly thing, Peter. I sort of bet our car.
So Peter tries to get the car back by convincing the casino owners he's actually part Native American. Well, there are only 2 ways to prove that, and a 23andMe test takes too long, so he's gonna go for the second option.
To prove you are truly a member of our tribe, you must go on a vision quest.
Okay, but I'm not sure what a movie from the 1980s has to do with getting a car back. But what they actually require is Peter to go out in the woods and connect with nature on such a deep level that his guiding spirit will appear to him. It's BS, but I'm only calling it BS because the owners also know it's BS. Don't come for me. Yet Peter does have visions of the fawns out there, and it actually helps him connect with Chris a little better.
You know, I probably don't say this often enough, but I'm really proud of you, Chris.
Yeah, but nearly dying in the wilderness would have you growing closer to a ham sandwich if it were near you. With season 1 being so small, there aren't a ton of episodes to choose as the worst episode in the season. This is probably the weakest, but it's by no means a bad episode. Maybe its racial jokes haven't aged the best, but it did a solid job of continuing to flesh out the characters and exploring the wacky world they inhabit. But coming in at the number 3 spot is season 2's lowest rated episode, There's Something About Polly, where Peter gets wrapped up in the mob and eventually needs to do what he can to stop a hit that was put on Lois.
Me and my associates will steal your car, and ipso facto your insurance company will buy you another one.
After all, insurance fraud is one of the most American things a man can do. So after the mob helps Peter get a brand new car, they eventually come to collect with a request that would rather have you sleeping with the fishes. And fish are not good sleepers. Always tossing and turning, pulling the blanket off you in the middle of the night.
No one has ever been able to stand Big Fat Paulie's company for more than a minute. But you, Mr. Griffin, you will take him to the movies.
So the Don asks Peter to just entertain his nephew, which sounds simple enough. But can you believe there's a guy out there who can out-Peter Peter? The guy's big, rude, and disgusting. Which means you better get him out of the house before Lois starts falling in love with him.
Do you mind?
As a matter of fact, I do, you crazy broad.
I am not a crazy broad.
Women, am I right? So emotional. Maybe if they put their heads through drywall more often like men, they'd be a lot more relaxed. Peter, wanting to stay on the Don's good side, tells Polly that they can't be friends because of Lois. So naturally, Polly decides to put a hit out on her. Peter should have been a lot more specific if this isn't what he wanted.
You thought I wanted you to whack Lois?
Guilty.
It's not too late to have the hit called off, is it?
No, all that's needed is for Polly to still be breathing. You'd think if he had more holes in him, he'd be able to breathe better, but I guess that's not the case. So Peter has to go straight to the Don to sort things out, but not before Lois nearly dies a handful of times.
Is that okay with you? Because your opinion matters too.
Yes, let's get the hell out of here.
Like many of the earlier seasons, it's difficult to find an outright bad episode, and this is far from it. Another goofy scenario that introduces some new, enjoyable side characters, ones that feel fleshed out and not voiced by the same guy as every other character. It's not gonna whack you, but it still hits pretty well. But just missing out on the crown is the lowest rated episode of season 4, You May Now Kiss the Guy Who Receives, which sees Brian go to great lengths to legalize gay marriage in Quahog for his cousin Jasper.
Everyone, Ricardo and I are getting married!
Oh, that is terrific. It's about time you two settled down.
I guess this can come before Ricardo learns any English. Love is the language of the body anyhow. So Brian offers to have their wedding in the Griffins' backyard, but Mayor West ends up making a rash law change to draw attention away from his recent scandal.
Some breaking news today when Mayor West announced he will sign a citywide ban on gay marriages next week.
Yet another ploy to distract the voting population from the real issues. The issue here being a giant gold statue of a cartoon frog. If only this were the largest extent of political controversy in the real world. So Brian tries to fix this by going around town and collecting petitions to repeal the ban, which turns out to be harder than expected.
Will you sign a petition to overturn Mayor West's ban on gay marriage?
Gay marriage? Ah, come on. Two halves can't make a hole without a hole.
Rest assured, Quagmire, everyone has one of those. You'd think a guy as familiar with the human body would know that. So Brian does manage to get enough signatures, but unfortunately, Chris is going through his young Republican phase and burns them.
My petition! What the hell are you doing?
I'm gonna get to touch right-wing boob because of this.
I guess we all get into politics for our own reasons. This is the median voter you need to please, America. So Brian has to go get all of those petitions again before the next day, but even that's not enough to change Mayor West's mind. Maybe a hand cannon will.
No, I can't let Jasper down. I'm not gonna let you sign that.
A bold move, Brian. It's been a while since this town has had a political assassination, maybe for good reasons. Luckily, cooler heads prevail and West agrees to walk back the ban without anyone needing to get hurt. Come on, at least one person could have gotten hurt. Please?
Everybody gay!
It could be that this was considered an overly progressive episode at the time, which made this episode's rating as low as it is, but this is still, once again, a good episode. Even if you look past the politics, it shows Brian fighting for what he believes to be right and the happiness of someone other than himself. It's too bad this dog was killed off and replaced with the loser we have now. And what we think is the best, lowest rated episode of Family Guy is Season 3's The Kiss Scene Around the World. It's a Meg-centric episode where a near-death experience causes her to kiss Neil Goldman, but after a while, she kinda just wishes she died instead.
I never even had my first kiss!
It's not too late, Meg.
3 seasons without a single kiss? Death might actually be a blessing for her. So after these two survive almost getting killed by a madman with a gun, Meg just wants to enjoy the fact that she isn't dead. But nobody can make your existence more painful than Neil Goldman.
This is where we cease to be Meg and Neil and begin life anew as Neil.
Everyone else is ecstatic that Meg has finally found love. Everyone except Meg. And you kinda have to like a person to be in love, right? When's that information gonna reach the people on Love Island? But I guess the one positive we get out of this is getting to meet Mort Goldman, a whiny man who's the human equivalent of a rubber chicken letting out air.
They said bad, hurtful things to me. They called me tasty cakes, and they would beat me and stick pine cones in my ass.
I don't condone bullying, but just hearing him speak for 5 minutes kinda makes me think he deserved it. So apparently Meg just saying no isn't enough to get him to back off, so she decides to go all in on a Neil Goldman hate campaign, which pretty much just feels like what political ads are like now.
Many of you saw me kissing this freak of nature, but if I didn't think I was seconds away from death, I would have never done it.
Safe to say Neil handles this smear campaign in a pretty reasonable way, by standing on top of a building looking like he's gonna jump. That'll show him that this guy who's been harassing this girl for years is just a misunderstood nice guy. Reddit is down the hall and to the left, Neil. But he doesn't die as Meg manages to catch him and the two end up sharing a nice moment.
Don't read too much into this, Neil.
Well, it's hard not to when I'm lying right on top of you.
Overall, this is a very solid Meg episode that was clearly just going against such strong competition that season. It does a good job with Meg's character and makes her more than just a punching bag. It shows us her sweet side, her mean side, and again, it gave us Mort Goldman. Lives were changed on that day. What do you think of our ranking? Let us know what you think is the worst season of Family Guy down in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more.